The Chronicle thanks our 2023 Meet the Candidates sponsors: Ann Colton Films, Flossmoor Station Restaurant and Brewery, Jonathan Kane Salon and Spa, and Tom Brabeck Law Office. With their help, HF voters will be well informed on Election Day, April 4th.
Yes, as you stated, my name is Michael Rouse II, and I want to thank you for having me to participate in the interviews. I am currently a part of the Flossmoor School District School Board. I am filling out the term for previous board member who moved on to another board position. I've been on the board for just over a year now. I'm a 18-year resident of the Flossmoor area. I've had 4 children who've attended 161 and 233. I have 1 child left in 233. I'm 9 days away from celebrating my 30th anniversary with my wife. So currently I'm a math teacher in School District 205. I've worked in that capacity for about 14 years. There are certain things that are definitely critical in some of the buildings, and there are definitely some things that we would categorize as a wish list. Our priority is to, 1, make sure we have a safe place for our students and our staff. So anything relative to maintaining the buildings and keeping them in a position so that they are able to do what we need them to do is obviously a priority. But then there's some other things that we'd like to do as well that we have to kind of take a step back and look at the viability of those plans in the current circumstances. The improvements that we've looked at in terms of those that we feel are crucial for our different buildings, we are in a position to be able to fund those. There are some other things that we would be interested in doing, but it's going to be a matter of how we prioritize the other projects. So we're still kind of hammering through the details in terms of what projects we think will best serve our needs currently and in the near future. So it's still at a point where we're kind of whittling down and really honing in on specifically the things that we'd like to do to put our buildings in the best possible position.
Okay. Versus cost.
Fortunately, we're in a pretty good financial position as a board right now. I look at the bus scenario as something that's a bit of an eye-opener. Current economic situation in our country, we've seen significant inflation across a lot of different industries, specifically in terms of transportation. Those increases have been substantial. I think one thing that I've thought about relative to that increase is we need to kind of take a big picture look at everything that we're looking to invest in terms of our school districts and be a little bit more intentional in terms of how we spend the money, because if that inflation rate is anywhere near what we've seen with buses and some other issues, it's going to exceed the traditional percentages that are being quoted right now. So we have to be very intentional and cautious in terms of our decisions with regards to how we spend our money. Specifically with regards to infrastructure and student learning, it's well understood that you want an environment that's safe for students as well as faculty. And if students or faculty don't feel safe, if they feel like the place is falling down around them, we know from research that it has a negative impact on students' ability to learn. So keeping our buildings in prime working order is a top priority, because it does impact students' performance as well as teachers. And we have to understand that the dynamic of a school where you're talking about teaching and learning, you have to make sure that you're tending to the needs of both your students and your staff. And anytime you have a building that's not up to par, you're causing problems for teachers and students. In our current situation, if we take a big picture look at teacher mobility rates currently, the impact of the pandemic on teachers, the availability of teachers, has been something that has shook the world of education. And certainly we have to be responsive to that. So in terms of taking a look at how we're spending that money, we absolutely have to take a look at it. And we have to have those tough conversations about what's our priority in terms of capital improvements and what's our priorities in terms of making sure that we demonstrate a strong commitment to our staff, which in turn shows a strong commitment to our students. Absolutely. Early Childhood Center kind of sets the tone for kids' educational trajectory. And if we have the opportunity to impact that experience on the front end and put them in a better position as they start enter our schools, absolutely. I'm definitely in favor of that. We have to work out. Pre-kindergarten would be, I'm confident that would be a part of. We not, there's been no decisions in terms of kindergarten. It would be something that we would have to discuss. Any plan that we would decide to move forward on would have to be something that makes sense financially and educationally, and finding that right balance would be a conversation that we would have to hash out over time with the important community feedback.
Okay. No.
In terms of the impact of the pandemic, it's undeniable. It's had an impact on 161 and districts across the country. However, I think the pandemic has put us in a position where it creates an opportunity for us as educators and people who are part of education. It's forced us to take a look at our entire system from top to bottom and make decisions about what's going to best serve our students given the current circumstances. My expectation is if we go into this the right way, we can come out better than what we were before the pandemic. If we take a hard look at everything from finances to instructional practices in the classroom, there's an opportunity. We just have to make sure that we spend the time and energy and collaborate closely with our community to deliver on this opportunity so that we can move our students forward. And again, the goal has to be not just to be good, but to be better.
Or you still need the one-to-one with the teacher, obviously.
You absolutely need that interaction with the teacher. The devices, I like to think of devices like this. At one point in time, pencil and paper was a big improvement in terms of technology, right? Devices is that next step where it's a big improvement in terms of technology, but it doesn't take away the dynamic of teaching and interacting with someone who's capable of seeing the needs of students and being responsive to that. So the devices give us a lot of flexibility, a lot of opportunity to do a lot of things differently, but it doesn't negate or minimize the need to have teachers interact with students. So with regards to the data is still out on that, but I'm confident that there are some definite benefits to being one-to-one in terms of how it helps our students have access to so much more information. And if we balance things properly, it gives them a platform to be more creative, which is certainly something we want to see from our students. Definitely. I think the evidence of that is the teacher mobility rates. There's a lot of pressure in education right now that's affiliated or associated with the pandemic, dealing with students' social emotional learning, dealing with issues that students may have confronted while they were, at home during the pandemic is something that's a top priority. If we are interested in having our students move forward, we have to be sensitive and aware of the issues that they come to school with and be prepared to deal with them in a way that puts our students in the best position of learning. And if that's true for students, then certainly it's true for teachers as well. Teachers have pressures and things that they've had to deal with. The pandemic, if nothing else, it pulled back the shades and made us aware of the role that education plays. The school is not just education. And it sounds funny to say that, but it's so much more in terms of the role it plays in our economy. It's a place for students to be while their parents are working, and hopefully while they're there, we're doing things to move them forward. Sorry. In terms of what's important right now in education is that we have to realize and recognize those things that are most impactful for students and prioritize what's most impactful for students. Like I said, with regards to the pandemic, it pointed out the role that the school and education plays in a lot of different areas relative to our community. And for our students, our stakeholders, we have to get better. Flossmoor has attracted a lot of our residents because we've had good schools. Good schools is not sufficient. We need to strive to get better. We are blessed with brilliant children, and we have to live up to being worthy of serving those children in a way to put them in a position to move forward. That means taking a look at what we're doing in the classroom. That means taking a look at what we're doing in the administration offices. That means taking a look at what we're doing in the boardroom and having a cohesive plan that allows students to thrive in spite of the adversity that we're dealing with. And the best way for students to thrive is to make sure that teachers are thriving as well. So it's a dynamic that requires both. We're in an environment where standardized tests has a lot of impact on what happens in schools. And sometimes because of the pressure associated with performing on standardized tests, we sometimes get a little bit off center in terms of our focus. And we focus more on the results of the test as opposed to the things that drive the results. And we have to get back to the point where we're focusing on those things that drive results. And that's clearly working to make sure that students are learning and learning in a way that's benefiting them, and that teachers are feeling supported and encouraged to be creative. And if we're able to do that, then the results for our district are unlimited.
And as we wrap up, I want to thank you for participating and ask you if you have a statement to your voters on why you feel you should be elected. You're
Sure.
serving an unexpired term, so why you should be elected.
Thank you. The reason I feel I should be elected is simply because my family has been a part of this community for a number of years. I've seen the benefit of being a part of this community. I have 2 adult children, both who've received their bachelor's and master's degree. I have a daughter in college that's a sophomore that's thriving, and I have a son that's thriving at HF now as well. So during their formative years, I was extremely busy between working in the school and having 4 children. I didn't have the time that I would want to commit to something like the school board. Now I do, that my time commitment has been reduced significantly, and I feel it's an obligation for me to give back to the community that's given so much to me. And by being in the position of the board, I'm in a position to give back and to help move things forward. In addition to that, as an educator, I've had some experiences that have allowed me to see and understand things about the way schools work that not a lot of people are aware of. And certainly bringing that perspective to the board can have a significant impact. And because of that, I'm asking that the voters vote for me, vote for our schools, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.